This is the Confident One Conshizzy podcast. This is a special series dubbed Inspiring Confidence in Climate Justice. And we have an amazing guest in the building. She's a dynamic force in the global conversation on climate action and sustainable development. She's an advocate for community-led initiatives, and she's also super confident about who she is and what she does. Welcome, Salina Abraham.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Welcome to Conshizzy podcast.
Great to be here.
Great to see you.
I think there's nothing more important than getting people to be their fullest self. So this is huge.
So are you down to inspire confidence
Yes.
in climate justice?
Yes, in every way.
In every way.
Yeah.
All right. I love the energy. So let me take you back to a speech that caught my attention. I mean, I bumped into it and I was like, we need to get you on the Confident One podcast. That was the GLF in France, Paris, 2015.
I want to ask from you two things. The first is to concretely integrate youth into the work that you do and the solutions we have to offer into your organizations. The second is to support our Youth in Landscapes initiative so that we can continue to grow and enable youth so that we can become the leaders that we will have to be in the world. Many of us struggle to get here. And in order to have a truly inclusive representation of youth around the world, we will need your support. I'm asking you to consider youth like you consider regional diversity. Consider youth like we consider race and ethnicity. Consider youth like you consider gender. And I'm asking you to value youth in the same way we are now valuing interdisciplinarity. We cannot make the critical progress that we truly need without an inclusive and intergenerational effort.
Yeah.
I mean, that was powerful. How did that change your life?
It changed a lot. It changed how I viewed myself.
How did you view yourself before?
Someone who didn't go on stage and make speeches.
All right.
People know me, don't believe it, but I'm very introverted. When I grew up, I was like, people would play together and I would sit in the corner and I would take notes of like everything I saw in the world.
Okay.
So I never saw myself really engaging, interacting with people much. But that was my first speech. That was the first time I went on stage, and to see myself step into my own power.
And it was a huge platform.
Yeah, it was a big room. It was, the year that the Paris Climate Agreement was being decided. It wasn't happening yet. And it was such a big moment for me. I even got a tattoo to represent the ring, the daisy, African daisy ring I had bought for myself and lost that same day. But mostly thinking about myself as just someone who just was blooming in that time. I found out, hey, I can go on stage and do this.
You can inspire confidence in the world. I mean, and you did that. And brings me to the next question, because I saw in that clip you're talking about youth integration into global space and forums. What changed for the youth inclusion and integration after your speech? Did that inspire confidence for them to have more young people on board?
I think they felt it. Sometimes there's a right message for the right moment. And in that moment, they heard the message. Even the moderator afterwards, he was the director of the UN Environment. He took the session on after me, and he felt like he couldn't have this discussion without a young person. So he asked me to come up and sit in his chair. And they're like, you know what? We can bring another chair on the stage. We can't have this discussion without youth.
Okay.
And since then, every GLF has had a young person at the highest level in conversation, in plenary. Before, we would just come in as volunteers. We'd have a small session
on the
sidelines.
sidelines.
Yeah. Or like I was given, 3 minutes speech right at the beginning, and then exit as the big guys, the ministers, the people discuss what to do. Now everything's changed.
Wow. So we can say you walked so that us guys can run.
I don't know. No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, there was a huge group that enabled me to feel confident to do that, that pushed for the space. What I love is that, like, it's a regenerative initiative, right?
Okay, yeah.
I get older, new young people come, we empower and enable each other, and it's just, you pick up the baton, you go, no?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, and
that was just me in that moment.
I mean, you did great. I felt, I was just watching the clip and I could only imagine the guys in that room, how they could resonate with what you said. And I mean, it was amazing. So what do you feel like was the biggest hurdle to include youth in these forums and, just let them play like a major role?
Yeah, I think, and we still have the hurdles. There's definitely some element of change in the sense that we're put on stage. But when it comes to funding, when it comes to partnership, when it comes to making big, policy decisions,
Like, yeah, major decisions, yeah.
are we really there?
No.
Questionable. And to do that, to be honest, I think the biggest hurdle is trust. It's an element of like, do they feel like they can trust you? And it's hard. It's hard. I think what we do as much as possible now is we work with people who get it.
Okay.
And everyone else will come along, right? So you always need your champions, the people who will see it and say, okay, we can work with this. And then there's also a huge element of saying, like, young people, we need to coordinate ourselves. So
that's a good
moved
point.
towards
Yeah,
that.
we need to work as a team also.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, but I feel also, apart from trust, maybe, do you feel maybe these spaces, they feel like young people don't have, I don't know, major or sound contributions to bring on table? Apart from trust now, the trust issue aside.
Yes. So this is where the youth coordinating ourselves, building bridges across different silos where like, oh, okay, we're young people in forestry, we're young people in agriculture, we're young people in water. That is not helping us, right? So we worked really hard to build networks across young people in the entire climate justice space. Not everyone's going to agree. I mean, we don't even agree within one domain, right?
By the way, yeah, it's hard to agree. Even.
So that's out of the question, right? Agreement is not it, but how do we build our capacity and our ability to show up and make those informed contributions and bring on the agendas of each other as much as possible? So I think that's an important piece.
Yes.
And you're asking, so your question is really, okay, maybe we don't make the most informed contributions, or there's a question on what are we bringing to the table?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that's fair. I don't think it's helpful generally to talk about these big buckets often. The youth movement and agenda is useful for getting the foot in the door, for opening the ability to be in the room. But then we need to coordinate ourselves to justify what our contributions are and to build the partnerships that are required. That is where there's work to be done.
All right. Okay. I mean, I agree on that one. And if any young person is watching right now, what can you tell them if they want to be in that space? I mean, in the near future or soon, they want to be where Selena was at that moment or in a different space.
You know what helped me in Paris? I remember someone was making a speech before me.
Yeah.
And I looked at him. I was like, he's not making that great of a speech.
At that moment.
So I was like, I think I'll be okay. Like, this isn't that great. So
Okay.
I think I'll be okay. And one thing I've learned as I work in more institutions all over the place, at, the highest level, whatever you want to call it, they're not that organized.
Yes.
They
can do a better job as young people.
Yeah.
All right.
There's a perception that, I don't know, I'm not aware, they're more experienced. And that is what holds you back, right? And so much of what it is we're holding our own potential back, assuming that someone has more expertise, or I should be listening to this, or I'm stepping on someone's toes. In reality, these organizations that have been built were built by someone, even the campus we're sitting on, a long time ago, 45 years ago.
Yes.
And it's there for, many different reasons, but it's not always because of competence. It's not always because of the best solutions, the best organized team. So I think there's so much, when I see young organizations that are focusing on building capacity internally, we can do a lot. Like, there's a new vision.
We can do a better job than what they think we can do.
Yeah. Then what is being done right now.
All right. I mean, that's a sound, that's a
Period.
confident remark. All right. And after that, you've been to over 340 global, events and counting.
I guess. Yeah. That was my
lost
first
count.
international. That was my first international event in Paris. And since then, I think I found a mission, like an internal mission, like it's important to find your calling. And it came. Yes. And I just followed.
Something was sparked in you.
Yeah. Something woke up and I was like, whoa, we can do something here.
All right.
Maybe, I shouldn't sit alone at home writing in my journals.
You should let the world into your journal by being in that platform now.
Yeah.
Amazing. And brings me back to now a question that I'm interested to learn about your background growing up. Were you always passionate about the environment? Is this something
No,
you
I never
grew up?
cared.
You never cared?
No.
So how did that come along? The passion.
My mom was always saying, "What are you doing? This is not you.
She didn't get it.
It's not you, Salina."
What did she think you could have done better than being involved in environment issues?
I understand. I was going to be a lawyer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That's what I was thinking. I don't like to be outside really much. There's people who love the trees and being in them and hiking, and that was never me. Still not me. I cared about people.
Okay.
I cared about, my family comes from Eritrea. Kenya's green and
Yes.
luscious.
I mean, we have the only city. I mean, the city that's green,
Yeah.
Nairobi. Yeah.
Yeah, the greenest city
Yeah.
probably in the world.
In the world. Yeah.
My country's not like that, right? Very arid landscape,
Yes.
dry, not a lot of water. So when I was thinking about, what are agriculture and development issues in the country, I couldn't escape the environment.
Okay.
That is what sustains you in your life at that level. And so it was a question of how do you bring people really out of poverty? How do we bring prosperity and progress without destroying the environment?
The environment. How can we be environment conscious? Okay.
Yeah.
As we do go about our business.
Yeah.
All right.
And so that's what brought me there. I was always out of place. When I was studying, the classes would take me 7 hours into the forests and digging. And I was like, this is not where I want to be. But I started to, when you learn more, you can't unlearn. You can't
By
think
the way.
differently. No?
And keeps you going, and it keeps sparking the passion. I mean, you elevate your passion every day as you learn about maybe the space and the topic. So I feel like maybe you didn't envision yourself doing that,
No.
but I mean, look at you. You turned out great.
I get, yeah. My parents were confused for so many years.
Are
And
they
then
still
eventually,
are they still confused right now?
I made some speech somewhere and they're like, oh, she did it.
She was on a global space, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So brings me also now to another question that I want to find out. So if you're not passionate about the environment, growing up and environment issues, what are you passionate about? Apart from now wanting to be a lawyer, like you said. What else were you passionate about?
That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
I think I was always, don't know if I had a passion. I was one of those kids where you watch one movie or one TV show and then you're just like, this is who I want to be. I want to train dolphins or I want to do this.
Okay.
If I would have watched your podcast, I'd be like, I want
wanna
to
be a podcaster.
So the only thing I had core
Yes.
to me in my life was how I was processing the world.
Okay.
I was
That's a good-
always
yeah.
interested in just seeing and observing and saying, what is going on here?
The dynamics. Yeah.
Questioning things.
Mhm.
So
you have a curious mind, yeah?
I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A curious mind, normally a quiet mouth. Now that's all changed.
Okay.
That's all changed.
All right.
And so for me, at some point, looking at the big picture, I studied economics, I studied environmental science.
You studied also, you have a master's in public policy.
I've just wrapped that up this year.
Mm-hmm.
The big picture was like, okay, what are we doing here? We're doing something wrong. We need to be doing something differently.
Okay.
And so I think the passion and the calling was always, how can we do things differently? It doesn't matter if it's in the environment. It doesn't matter
Whichever space it is. Like
in
how
the
can we do,
organization. It's not
things in a different way.
functioning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what that my passion was.
Okay. Fresh thinking. And that's what you bring on the table.
I guess.
All right. Amazing.
It's good to put it in words. Yeah.
All right. I mean, that's cool. And let's talk about the GLF conference.
Yeah.
This is day one. And it's about finding sovereign solutions for African problems when it comes to the environment and climate. Yeah. So what do you think, in your opinion, since I consider you an expert in the environment space, what do you think should be done in African nations to find our sovereign solutions? What do you think? In your expert opinion, since you are an expert in public policy.
There's a lot. There's a lot there.
All right.
So I know there's an underlying reality and feeling of inequality when we think about the continent as it relates to the global stage.
Yes.
Right? Okay, so we don't have a place in forums where we want to be. There's a conversation around debt. There's a conversation around external intervention, foreign aid, all of these things, right? And one thing that I had to learn in public policy school,
Yes.
it's like you don't get what's fair, right? You get what you negotiate. And so taking on the ownership, which is just one element of the equation and does not feel fair, but is also a reality for us, is understanding
Yes.
the forces at play and how to position ourselves in a way where we get a deal that works for us. I think that requires a lot more unified action amongst.
What you spoke about, like having a solid unit, yeah,
Yeah.
especially as young people.
Yeah. So if you think about right now, everyone's talking about getting electricity to be clean, not oil, gas, but being able to be solar powered. And what we need for that, the
Yes.
minerals that go into solar panels, where do you think they're found in the world?
By the way, so true. Okay.
In Latin America and in Africa. And in Latin America, they've already organized themselves.
Yeah, they're doing great.
They said, okay, we're going to make our own version of OPEC. You know, there's an alliance of oil producing states. Let's make an alliance of states that are producing the minerals that we need for clean energy.
Okay.
This hasn't yet happened in the African
continents, yeah.
That is a form of consolidating power, right? Of being able to say, we're going to settle this on our own terms in a coordinated way so that the U.S. isn't going to Zambia.
Without any external interference and...
Yeah, so that you're not making a deal here. You're fighting against each other on pricing, on industry policy, on tax rates, you know?
Yes.
There's power in numbers, and we haven't yet figured out a way to truly coordinate and find what are the strategic places where we can gain power, in negotiation power, right? Which I think makes a difference. It
like
makes
you
a
said,
difference.
yeah. You get what you negotiate for.
Yeah.
Nothing is fair.
No.
I mean, amazing. I want to bring you back to your education. You are a fellow for Harvard Center, and I mean, I have a couple of friends who studied in Harvard Law School, and it's a brilliant space.
Yeah.
I've seen what the space did for them. What did that do for you, being in that space?
You're asking a good question. Hey, what
Yes.
did being there do for me? It's interesting
Yes.
because, so I've always had this dream of Harvard, right? As a kid, if anything I cared about was like reading books.
You learned about Harvard as a kid
Yeah.
from...
I don't know, maybe those movies, no? Probably one of those movies.
You knew about Ivy League universities
That
as a kid.
convinced me. I was
that's
like,
dope.
oh, I want to be a top-ranking lawyer and live
Okay.
in New York or whatever, you know? And then I went,
Yes.
different experience. And I think one thing that stayed true all throughout for me is this sense of belief in yourself
Yes.
and being completely unapologetic no matter what space you're in.
And confident.
Yes, about your views, who you are, the communities you represent, the things that you believe in. And Harvard helped challenge, like it was like a fire, no? I'd sit in a classroom, completely disagree with what people are thinking and thinking, is
You're
this
very
really
disrupting.
happening? Is this, you know? I'm like, okay, I've got options.
Okay.
I walk out of the room because I'm done. I don't want to hear this anymore. You know, you interrupt and you push back on the professor and you say, you know, what about this? I feel like you're leaving this out. Or you're quiet. Because it's Harvard.
All right. So you feel if you studied in a different institution, that couldn't have been brought out in you?
I think the power dynamics that
Yes.
are present at Harvard, especially when it relates to the US government, are very different than elsewhere. So you don't necessarily always feel like you're walking into a neutral open space.
Okay. Interesting.
So because it's a school of policy. Now, you go to the School of Business, different conversation. But the School of Public Policy had us working on
Yes.
real issues. You're going to brief the president. You're going to brief this, you know, Department of Defense. How do we deal with these issues? Why don't you consider, you know. So it was a different way of thinking than I would
Okay.
ever have done.
All right.
So pushing people to think differently, to embrace perspectives and cases and voices that they wouldn't normally have at Harvard was a huge part of, I think, what myself and my friends
Okay.
and the Africa caucus that was there also pushed for.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's great. You know, they keep saying, you know, you need to go to these Ivy League institutions. But like coming from you, it's clear. Like they do a lot for you as a person in your career.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah.
So yeah, everyone keeps telling me like, oh, they will, you know, it'll pay off for years in the
It's
future.
paying off for you.
So they say. I think it was interesting. It taught me a lot.
All right.
It taught me a lot.
Interesting. So we are about inspiring confidence
Yeah.
with bold, brave, and disruptive conversations. And that's what we're doing right now. So if we get to do that today,
Yeah.
of course,
Then we've done it.
we've done it.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Selena, I want to find out and know maybe your sentiments about the power of youth leadership.
Yeah.
What do you think is the power of youth leadership? I know we spoke about inclusion and integration, but what do you feel is the ultimate power of youth leadership in the world? Not in just organizations, politics, anywhere. The power of youth leadership. How can you describe that?
To me, I think it's so much, it's the fresh mind.
Yes.
And unfortunately, when young people are quiet, we don't get to hear that perspective. But I think the more confident we get, the more we learn. We can learn very quickly and arrive at a place that is new. Whereas, sometimes you can go into organizations hoping to change the organization.
Yes.
And then it changes you.
By the way.
You don't even notice
By the way.
quietly.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
You're a different person.
So you, 10 years from now in an institution is different than you right at the beginning. And I think what young people have the power to do
Yes.
is you don't have that. You're not there yet.
Okay.
We have an ability to see what was wrong, and design a pathway that is different for ourselves in our careers,
Okay.
to remember and to build community in a way that pushes back so that we don't change ourselves too much, and that we work on pushing and changing the organizations, changing the face of politics. I think the one thing that holds young people back is this confidence. That's why I'm so excited about this.
Mm-hmm.
My first years working in this space was all about youth leadership. We'd
Okay.
host workshops. People would come in thinking one thing about themselves, and they come out like, no, you know what? I'm going to quit this PhD. I'm
Okay.
going to move here because that's what I, am called to do.
All right. Interesting. Amazing.
Yeah.
Before we take a short break, I
Yeah.
wanna take this chance and tell you happy birthday. It's your birthday.
It is my birthday.
So how do you feel about that? It's your birthday. You're in a space inspiring confidence about climate justice and what you do and who you are.
I feel very grateful to be
Okay.
around such incredible people.
Yes.
I feel like an open, grateful heart today. I thought I would run away and not have this conference and, spend the day to myself.
Okay.
But I'm really glad I came here.
All right. We're
I
glad
always
to
have to
have you.
push myself
All right.
to show up.
All right. Thank you, Selena. This is the Confident One Conshizzy podcast. I'm going to take a short break. We'll be back with Selena Abraham. This is the Confident One Conshizzy podcast. We're back with the amazing Salina Abraham. We're about inspiring confidence with bold, brave, and disruptive conversations. And it's about climate justice and all matters climate. So, Selena, what do you think is, I don't know, what's the biggest hurdle when it comes to the climate crisis that we're having as planet Earth? What can we do, like I said, back to Africa, since we're finding solutions for Africa? What can we do in the African continent to, I don't know, solve the climate crisis? Because, I read in a research paper they had done, and they said in a couple of years, human beings might be extinct because of the climate issues we're having, and
Yeah.
the pollution and everything.
Yeah. So I had mentioned earlier, I didn't care about the environment.
Yes.
But once you read those reports, and that's what I learned in school. Once
Yes.
I learned the facts, I couldn't see this as an issue that I would take part in. So the challenge often is, this is Africa's reality, right?
Yes, Africa.
The climate problem was created and caused by a few countries, none of which are in Africa.
Exactly. And that's the saddest part.
Yes.
Yes.
And yet it's the most vulnerable. And, less than 4% of kind of the emission, we cause less than 4% of the problem.
Imagine. Crazy.
So when we ask ourselves, what can we do? We didn't cause the problem. So much of the actions we can take are to
Protect ourselves, yeah?
Yes.
And in our space, our environment.
protect ourselves from a crisis that we didn't cause. So that is not a great place, right, to be. That's not
By the
a
way.
wonderful place to work
On
from.
the receiving end.
Okay, we can't solve the
Yes.
problem because we
Yeah, we
didn't
can.
cause it,
Mm-hmm.
but we have to prepare for it.
All right.
So part of this conference is thinking about, we talked about sovereignty. in our food systems,
Yes.
so that we're not reliant
On external nations and
anything that happens in another country. We have the capability to produce enough food for our continent to be exporting it, and yet we import a lot of key elements of our diet, right?
correct. Yeah.
So we're thinking now about what are the solutions in place that can be done, that we have we have the research. We've been researching for so many years. We have the science.
But we're not implementing. Implementation maybe
No.
is where we're lacking.
There is technology.
Yes.
We are not necessarily bringing that into play to advance this issue. And then there's a leadership conversation or problem or failure, depending on how you look at it. And I would say the biggest hurdle I feel is that we are spending too much time expecting leadership and global decision makers to come together and find an answer. It's not happening.
We need to find our own answers.
It's not going to happen.
In Africa.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter if the government doesn't have a policy in place to support it. I mean, we're going to work to do that, but what I learned, government is cautious and is slow. If you can prove to them a solution, they'll go ahead and onboard it and facilitate it.
All right. Do you think African governments are willing to, implement all these brilliant papers and case studies that are coming from, people like you who are experts in these areas? Do you think there is that goodwill, the willingness to implement?
I think if it's proven and the risk is low, then they're happy to implement.
All right.
Right?
Okay. Well
So
put.
given that context,
Yes.
our job then is to prove the concept, is to scale the solutions already, and then government will say, oh, okay, I see that you've done this. I see that you've brought funding. I see that this is delivered for people. I'm happy to now talk to you. I'm happy to support. I'm happy to roll this out elsewhere.
Okay.
But you can't come with an idea and ask government to support it.
That's not going to work.
No,
All right. Interesting.
they're not the place.
This is
it
coming
starts
from an expert, a public policy expert, an environment expert, Selena. This is amazing. I want to take you. I want to make it a bit fun now, away from the climate talk. You're a singer too.
Apparently, yeah, I am.
Where can we find your records?
So I've been singing since I was 13
13. All right.
with my sisters, and yeah. So
What happened?
What happened? Well, we toured the world. We sang. We sang in English. We sang in America.
In your native language.
And we sang in Tigrinya, in our native language in Eritrea. Yeah.
Okay. And what made you pull out from the group? And how did that? Why did you do that?
So I sang probably until I was 21. Around the time when you saw me in Paris. Huh?
Okay.
So
you were hoping from a global conference to a stage and sing.
that's why
That was amazing.
the stage was familiar.
Okay.
But being there alone by myself, speaking my thoughts, that was not something I knew
All right,
how
yeah.
to do.
Okay.
You know how there's sometimes, like, internally something's wrong. You're like, oh, I'm doing this thing. It should be really good. It's working out externally, but I feel a calling to do something else.
Okay, that's how you felt.
That's how I felt. And it didn't make sense because I worked for 10 years for this. To go to Los Angeles and be signed by a record label and, do the whole pop star singing
And
thing.
tour the world.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it didn't make sense, but I felt a calling to do something else. I
Okay.
had no idea what that was.
Okay.
So
Amazing.
I just, at some point I said, I have to honor this. I need to go. And then I pursued this, I don't know what you call it, environment policy,
Public
international
policy making, decision maker, opinion
Sure.
shaper.
I was like, hey, I got to get in here.
Okay.
So I did that for 6-7 years. And in the past couple years, I've been reflecting that, hey, we're meant to live as full people.
Okay.
You can't just live, cut off your singing and go do this and then, cut off your mind and then just sing. There's so many,
you can do a lot.
Yes.
And I agree with you because myself, I do a lot. You find me here doing the
Yeah.
podcast. You find me in a legal space. You find me doing voiceovers. So I don't know, what can you tell someone watching and listening right now if they feel they still need to do, the career thing and
Yeah.
still do something they're talented about
Yeah.
and passionate about?
Yeah. Your job is to manage a portfolio
Okay.
of things. Now, there will maybe one is 1% because you haven't built it out yet and you're not really sure, but you manage the risk, you put in the effort to get to, I think, an ideal portfolio that represents who you are. Some of it's about making income because we need to survive.
At the end of the day, yeah. You secure the bag, yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
And we want to build wealth for all across generations. Then some of it is about expression and keeping our soul happy and alive so we can feel confident. Because if you're working somewhere that is just sucking, the life out of you, you're not able to show up anymore. So
By the way.
yeah, it's important.
You'd be doing yourself a big disservice.
Yeah.
And did your sisters feel some type of way with you?
Yeah, they were upset with me.
What did they tell you?
They were mad. So I had to have them sign a contract. The whole family.
For real?
Yeah.
You could have made a
I wrote it
brilliant
out.
lawyer.
As I'm telling you.
How about going back to law school?
No, no, that was my first contract experience. I don't know if it was successful. But I was like December 31st.
But you told me you're considering, I don't know, going back to law school and study law.
Let's see. I just finished my.
You need a break.
I need a break.
All right, yeah, I deserved one, by the way.
So yeah, they were mad for a few years, and then they understood it. I think they saw that even the closest people to you, sometimes they're not able to see what is inside of you.
By the way, you're the only one who knows what's going on.
Yeah.
In your mind.
And I love them. They love me, but they could not support me in what I was doing in that moment. And the part of the confidence is doing it in spite of your family.
By the way, just going ahead with what you believe in.
You just have to do it.
I agree.
So they come around later.
What do they think about you right now?
Now they love it. We're all happy. They called me this morning to say happy birthday.
Okay.
And when I was singing a song tomorrow, my sisters were like, okay, you could do this, you could do that. So we're helping each other out.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, shout out to them. I know they will be watching this, yeah?
Yeah.
They watch your stuff?
Mom and dad more than sisters. Huh?
All right. Big up to mom and dad.
Can only ask for so much.
Okay. I mean, this is amazing. So do you think as a young person who maybe is talented and passionate about, I don't know, doing something different from what they are studying, do you think sometimes the balance can be a bit tricky? You're trying to sing, you want to be a lawyer, a public policy maker, but you're trying to strike a balance.
Yeah.
Do you think that you can lose out on one and gain, or maybe lose out in all because you're trying to, like you say, you're trying to find the balance?
Yeah, I think so. This is one thing I've learned the past 2 years.
Okay.
I used to think I could do everything.
You still can.
I can,
Yeah.
but not all at one time.
Exactly. You need to find time to do one thing at a time.
There are seasons of your life,
So, yeah.
right? So there's a season I was singing and I was pushing, and that's what I did 24/7. And then there was one where I just...
And someone told me music is very jealous. It doesn't want you to do other things. What do you think about that as a musician, as a singer?
Who told you that?
A singer.
A singer?
An international singer.
Hey. Hey, it depends who that is, huh?
Yeah, it depends.
Yeah, the industry is something different,
Yes.
and then there's your artistry, which lives apart. But I had to learn that. So there were 5-6 years where I had to build my career, and I, dedicated myself to that.
Okay.
But you can't do everything at one time. So I think acknowledging that and also having peace with the pace of life is important.
Okay.
Right? Sometimes we beat ourselves up by like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. Why am I not doing everything? You can't do everything.
Yes.
So do your best to show up in the best way possible. And then know, maybe next year you can start to bring that 1% up to 10% to 25%. Maybe you make enough money to quit your job one day and the whole thing changes.
Yeah.
But you
Goes
have
back to securing the bag, yeah?
Yeah.
What are you most proud of? All the things you've achieved on this day, on your birthday. Happy birthday once again.
Oh.
Yeah.
Can I have 2 things?
Yeah, you can have 2 things, even 3.
I think the first one is all the young people that we were able to work together to create a space that had just unlocked potential and power for so many people.
Okay, that's amazing.
So when I see them now, they're out there doing their thing. They're on this platform. They're on Time Magazine. I'm like, yes.
We did it.
Yes.
Okay.
That's all that mattered to me. The second thing is staying true to myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I am unapologetically
So we can
honest.
say you are a true original.
Well, I think I work hard to show up. Yeah, honestly. And you know what was hard? Going to Harvard and still being honest about who I was, you
By
know?
the way.
That was tough. And so for that, I'm proud. I'm proud of that.
Okay. Can you add another thing that you're proud of, or just 2?
I'm slowly learning how to relax.
Okay. What do you more about that? Can you expound on that?
I think
Mm-hmm.
it is important to enjoy life. And sometimes when you're running and you're thinking and you're planning,
Yes.
you're not able to do that. So I think one part of moving to Nairobi to me too was just like, I can breathe here. I feel like I can breathe here.
Okay.
Building community of people that help,
Yeah, and you're passionate about community initiatives, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And even just friendship and fun and, the opportunity to go out and
Nairobi's a fun
explore.
city.
Yeah, new things.
Yeah.
Yeah, this used to live in Germany. That was not so fun.
Mm-hmm. Which city?
Bonn.
All right. Okay.
Almost a village. No, I'm just kidding. A small village. No, it was okay.
Okay. So, what do you do for fun? Since you talked about also like living. That's living, by the way.
Yeah, it is. It is.
What do you do for fun? What does Selena do for fun?
I love to dance.
Mm-hmm. Are you a good dancer?
Well, people always ask that question, huh?
Mm-hmm. Do you consider yourself a good dancer?
That is so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Do I consider so I danced and sang for 10 years, right?
I mean, a decade.
Yeah. So, I mean, when it comes to choreography and dancing,
Yeah.
that was my life. There was no rehearsal other than every day. My
Yes.
sister is an excellent dancer. So I'm always like, someone who was born to just choreograph and to move, that's her. But I can dance.
You can dance.
Yeah.
All right.
So I enjoy it.
All right.
Music, dancing. I'm a quiet person, so I get to sit at home alone and puzzle.
Okay.
I like doing things that make me feel like I'm a kid again.
All right. I mean, that sounds dope.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you watch cartoons?
No. No, I don't even think I did that as a kid. So no.
Okay.
I was watching documentaries.
All right. Amazing. So, I know you've been around the globe. You are a global citizen,
Yeah.
and I want to do something fun. Just name a couple of cities that you've been to, and you can just talk about them. Just tell us the experience, what you learned from them, and just just your experience in that city. Yeah, to inspire guys to travel the world.
Yeah, cool.
Let's start with your native city, Asmara.
Asmara.
Yes.
Asmara is beautiful. So if you have a chance to go, I know it's complicated. You need a visa, blah, blah, blah. Do it. Do it. It's called Piccolo Roma sometimes because it's the Italians were there for some time.
Yeah.
And they left something beautiful. And I think we turned that into our own Eritrean vibe.
Okay.
So you can go, everything moves slow in Asmara.
There's no rush.
No.
It's like
There's
Mombasa
no,
in Kenya.
there's no mobile data. Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't have your phone ringing.
Yes.
And if you want Wi-Fi, it's hard to find and it's slow.
Okay.
Gonna change soon. But for the time being, embrace it. Digital detox. You're in Asmara, you're walking down the streets, you've got your palm trees,
Okay.
you walk in for a cappuccino, have a nice Italian cake, our own version of like lasagna and pasta. And,
Okay.
Or injera. It's just beautiful
All right. So, guys,
and very safe.
she'll visit Asmara.
Yeah.
That's in Eritrea.
Yeah.
Amazing. Next city, Paris, France.
All I can think of is croissants. Like the chocolate croissants.
Okay.
Pain au chocolat.
Do you love them?
I love them. That's
All
all
right.
I would do. I'd go and I'd order my chocolate croissant. I didn't love it, but there's something to it,
Yes.
that reminds you don't have money.
It's a very expensive city.
Yeah, it is. So
Okay.
you can look and see the fashion and the jewelry and the this, and you just are like, okay, beautiful.
All right. I love that, but I need to secure the bag.
I'll
more.
come back later. Yeah,
Come back later.
yeah.
There's a joke going around. They say that in Kenya, when someone can't afford something,
Yeah.
they ask, "Are you guys going to be open tomorrow?" But in Europe, in America, they like, "I can't afford that. I need to go work hard more and come and
Oh,
buy
you
it."
just
Is that true?
no,
Mm-hmm.
no. I really struggle with that.
Mm-hmm.
There's times I've bought things and I was like, I should have just said, "Are you open tomorrow?" And I walked out. I'm like, no.
I just made a big mistake.
Yeah,
Okay.
too many times.
All right. Amazing. So Paris, that's amazing. New York City.
New York is special.
Okay. How special is New York?
It's chaos.
Yeah, it's chaos. Yeah.
It's chaos, but
Very fast.
I like chaos. So there's something addictive about it for me, where I'm like, oh, there's so many things going on. You can take a taxi from here and there, and there's parts of the city where you can have great food and a lot of fun. There's parts of the city that feel like home. Like anyone will just talk to you on the street, and you feel like you're part of the community. And then you've got Wall Street, which is like
Yes.
buildings and suits and
Yeah, the skyscrapers, yeah. Okay.
so I like that, but I could never live in New York City. I told myself, focus. You need a
Alright.
city that represents your priorities and who you are as a person. New York was not that for me, but everyone should live there maybe once.
And experience the city.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
Shout out to all New Yorkers watching, maybe.
Yeah, don't hate me for whatever I just
But,
said.
don't come for her. And our city, Nairobi, Kenya. You've been here for 2 years.
Yeah. I fell in love with Nairobi when I came here in 2017 and 2018.
What has been your experience with Nairobi? Apart from environment, conferences.
Yeah. There was the
And-
conference stuff,
Yeah.
and then I was able to go out with friends and dance. And I was like, oh, this is nice. You know, when you go to the clubs in Germany, they don't have the same music playing.
Okay.
They don't have the same vibes. It's not the same. So for me, having a city where like you can just express joy and have people around you, you know, it's very different. I tell this to people. It's like a blessing to grow up with in an environment of people who look like you.
By the way.
And you don't always realize it till you leave. And then you're like, oh, interesting. This is different. So it was a breath of fresh air to not only, I mean, I've been to Africa but Nairobi has something special. I think it gives this city, it's a city of potential, of connection, of
It's
community,
a vibrant city.
of creativity. It feels like anything is possible here.
True, I agree.
And people make it happen. And you get to show their stories and we learn from each other. I love it.
So you don't plan on leaving Nairobi?
Not right now. There's not my parents were a bit sad, but then they came here and they were convinced. Now they might retire in Kenya.
Wow, that's amazing. If you're watching, dad and mom to Selena,
Yeah.
yeah, come and live in Nairobi. I mean, it's an amazing place, like you said, and the possibilities are endless. A lot can be done here.
It feels like that. I feel like Kenya's given Africa a gift
Amazing.
in many ways.
Okay.
You've offered your home up and like was able to be this hub for people to come.
Okay.
And there's nothing like it. I don't think there's anything like it.
Amazing. Do Kenyans know that? Nairobians? I don't think they know that.
No, but go to Asmara. Okay?
Yeah.
And then come back to Nairobi and then we can chat. Okay?
And the conversation will be very different.
Different trajectory right
Okay.
now. And the rest of the cities will get there. But right now, Nairobi is paving the way in many ways.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a hub for so many things.
It is.
Shouts to Nairobi and
Yeah.
all the residents.
Yeah.
And coming from Salina, who has been around the globe, we should take
I
that
love
as a
this
compliment.
place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. So I want to know how being in these spaces has impacted not just you as a person, but even people around you. Being a global leader and policymaker, how has that impacted people around you, your family, your friends? What's the impact around that?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
My question is, I mean, like the people around you, your siblings,
Yeah.
your mom, your dad, your friends, how has your impact around the world also impacted on them?
I think,
Because you've impacted around the globe.
yeah, I know.
Yeah, especially 2015 Paris.
It is interesting. And I think I measure my success often by whether my sisters understand and care and feel like they can be a champion of the work that I'm trying to do.
All right.
Because, you know, traditionally we talk about climate justice. People don't know what we're talking about.
By the way, yeah.
Nobody knows
it's a
what we're
complex
talking
topic, yeah.
about. Now, I love GLF. We've done, work to bring in new people who don't traditionally, come to these conferences. But people still don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So,
It's still the elephant in the room.
so for me, it's like if my sisters, and every time they learn, like, Selena, more people
What's
should
that
know about
about?
this.
Yeah.
Yeah. You should share more. Like you need to, and so I'm always thinking about how can I explain this in the simplest way possible?
Exactly.
How do I share something that's not depressing to people?
And not tiring. It's
Yeah.
easy to, soft landing, easy to your ears.
And feels like, they can be a part of it even in the smallest way. So for me, it's really an inspiration to maintain my focus
Okay.
on like,
Okay.
sure, you can go around to any conference and say whatever, but we need to remember that we need to get everyone.
On board
Yeah.
and get everyone involved.
Yeah.
Amazing. So who's more passionate? Who's more keen and curious about what you do around you? Who's the most curious? Hey, I see you doing something with GLF. What's that about? I saw your speech. Like, who's the most curious one?
In my family.
Yeah, in your family.
Curious is different than supportive, huh? Because I'd say
Yeah, those are two
mom
things,
is
yeah.
supportive. Mom's like, what time is is the thing?
yeah.
I want to see it.
See it,
Send
yeah.
me the link.
Shouts to mom. Yeah.
I think my youngest sister, Haben.
What's her name?
Haben.
Mm-hmm.
And she's the one that's still singing. She has a very open heart. She cares and feels very deeply. So I think she understands that there's something here that she should maybe be listening to, but doesn't fully understand.
Okay.
So she's the most curious. She's like, well, what does that mean? I watched this video. She's like, what were they trying to say here? Or the GLF will post something and she'll say, this was horrible. I don't understand what that person said. They need to communicate this completely
They
differently.
need to simplify it.
Yeah. I don't know. You lost me on the second sentence, you know? So she's the most curious.
Okay. I mean, shout out to
She's
your
helping.
sister.
Yeah.
Mhm.
She's helping.
You should have brought her.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. She's going on tour soon, so she has to
All right.
do her thing.
All the best to that.
We'll support her. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So what do you think is gonna be the biggest impact after the 2-day conference, day 1 and day 2 tomorrow? What do you think is gonna come out of this, in your opinion? Like you said, people don't even understand why they're here. They just, what's going
Yeah.
on? What's this? What's that?
Yeah.
But what do you think is gonna come out of this in the 2-day conference we're having here
I think what's special about bringing people
together for a cause?
together,
Mhm.
yeah, you create magic. Now,
It's
not
about
every time.
conversations.
Not every time, right? So I'm hoping in these 2 days, we'll be able to connect people who needed to be in the room together
All right.
to create
And that's powerful.
that initiative, to create that partnership that has the potential to bring other people together, or has the potential to bring research and data and technology in a way that's accessible to the end user or a farmer. I'm hoping that's what we will be able to do. The thing about GLF is you kind of figure that out a year later. You know,
Mm-hmm.
people come back and say, "Oh, we actually discussed this over wine, and then we launched
We
it."
were like ahead of our time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we will see the impact later. I'm hoping that, and also tonight we're gonna have a debate.
Okay.
And I think that's going to be the test on whether we have the real ability to have the hard conversation.
And to evoke change. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And hear each other.
Okay.
If we disagree, can we still hear each other and work together? Can we look for that tiny, tiny sliver where we can build common ground?
Amazing. That's great. Yeah.
Let's see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. Selena, I told you, she's a global expert, not just in environment issues,
I don't know.
but in so many things. So there's something called, this is a new segment in the podcast. It's called Words of Wisdom. There's so many girls and young women watching you, young men. This is a global podcast.
Yeah.
And they would like to hear your words of wisdom and inspire confidence in them. So this segment is called Words of Confidence. So what can you tell them? Speak directly to them and tell them they're watching right now. Your words of confidence.
My words of confidence. I would say I would want everyone to close their eyes.
Okay.
Yeah. And now we are able to dream. Sometimes you have to cut the noise out to see a clear vision. That's what I try to do as much as possible. Sit down with myself, a journal, and say, okay, Salina, what are we dreaming for here? What is the potential that's sitting inside of you that hasn't come out yet? And you'll start to see small pieces of the vision come together. Mine has evolved so many times over the years, and I try to honor my intuition to respect that evolution. But try to see the biggest, most expansive version of yourself.
Okay.
What are you doing? Right? Who's in the room? Who's supporting you? What does that feel like? And then every single morning, try to step back into that feeling of the biggest version of yourself. It's
The
not
biggest version of
something
yourself.
you can do once and then you're done. It's every morning. Like every morning on my drive to work, I speak life into myself. I'm like, okay, Salina, it's feeling depressing right now, but this is what we can do. This is how I want to speak life into people who are around me. How can I say the thing that needs to be said in that specific moment to change the direction of a conversation?
All right.
So yeah, that's it.
Amazing. Well put. Salina Abraham, inspiring confidence with bold, brave, and disruptive conversations. And it's about inspiring just confidence in climate justice today and tomorrow, the two-day conference. So, I mean, as we wrap up, I want to find out what's your biggest fear if we don't achieve what you're trying to achieve. For the,
Oh Lord.
what are you most afraid of if you don't get to achieve what you're trying to achieve? About climate, about our sovereign solutions as Africans?
Yeah. I worry about this all the time,
It keeps you up at night.
unfortunately.
Yeah, me too.
Unfortunately. Yeah, and I've been thinking about this more recently because, sometimes, I'm worried there will be forgotten people,
Okay.
that people can comfortably turn their backs on because a situation has gotten so bad that we're not able to manage this as a globe. So I worry for the stability of our countries, of our economies.
Okay.
For Eritrea, we have less than 1% of forests. We used to have 30, 40.
That's sad.
It's a tough situation.
Okay.
And we don't want the desert to expand. We want life, vitality, a thriving lifestyle. So that's what I worry about, my community and country being forgotten. And I don't think we're going to do that. That's why we're here to build a new vision for Earth.
All right. So we should be confident about what you're doing.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, we're going to fight.
We're going to fight. All right. Amazing. Interesting. But I also feel like if we, like you said, if you bring everyone on board and make it simple and simplify the conversation. So maybe even the conversation should be, how can we make it a more simpler conversation to normal folks that don't understand these complex ideas or initiatives you're coming up with. If we make it simple, we bring it to the ground level,
Yeah,
maybe we can achieve more
I agree.
greatness and success when it comes to these initiatives.
And when you do that, you kind of stop talking so much about climate
Yes.
because it's not about climate, right? It's an important part of the conversation. But if we're talking very simply about what we're doing, we're just trying to build a new way of living and thriving on this planet.
I agree 100%.
That's it.
Okay.
So building out what can you do no matter what element of life you're working on is important. If you're in the food systems space, great. There's things you can do.
Okay.
If you want work on energy and power, wonderful. What can you do? If you're building businesses and you are a corporation that's trying to do something completely separate from climate, what can you still do?
Okay.
This has been a wonderful conversation.
It's been an amazing conversation.
I'm really grateful.
Salina, you are a force to reckon with. One to keep an eye on with your work and initiatives. And I feel like there's so much we need to do. Like you said, the message is clear. Be solid, create a unit. And I think you are doing great, inspiring confidence in climate justice and what you do and who you are. And all I can say is keep breaking the glass ceiling and inspiring confidence.
We're going to try.
And it's been amazing having you on the Confident One podcast. And I'm hoping to have you again.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much for creating the space. It's important for us to be able to have these conversations.
Thank you for that. I feel it is. Yeah.
I'll be listening to the future ones too.
I know you will.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much for your time.